Black City Coffee Blog. In this video, I'm going to answer Justin's follow-up question really quick. I think it's important because let's talk about sourness and acidity, okay? And trying to clarify the both of those. Okay, so Justin, you had a lot of nice things to say. Thank you very much. But I think you're speaking to me. Let me just read this. I can hit my targets within 10 seconds or so if I'm on my roasting game and really paying attention, but every time I get a sour cup, I assume it's just a bad extraction. Need to retry with finer grind and higher temps. Learn this from the espresso side of things. Yes, that's a different side of things versus, like, say, brewing, pour over, stuff like that. Okay, so are you saying that sourness / acidity can just be traits of certain roast profiles, and if it's too acidic compared to similarly processed coffees, I need to try a darker, longer roast profile? And this is just in the context of cupping, where grind temp technique are mostly not a factor. Okay, so complex. Okay, by the way, my middle phase definitely needs work. I can rarely stretch it into 4 minutes territory, usually in 2 to 2.5 minutes, sometimes 3. That could be part of it too. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff going on here, Justin. But I think it's really kind of like interesting, fun, and important to talk about. So let's break it down, the first part, okay? So sour cups. Let's go ahead and clarify. A sour cup for espresso in particular versus, say, an acidic cup. So, and I totally was like right where you were until I had a really good shot of espresso. Okay, so I think it's really good to kind of like standardize your palate first. So either going to, like, I don't know, like I was able to go to a class, obviously, right, and be like, and this wasn't even part of the class, it was just came with the territory of somebody being able to pull a shot correctly in front of me, and then tasting like a lot of espresso and getting their validation, like, this is good, this is not sour, this is acidic, right? And the difference between that, it's really hard for me to describe to you, I think, on camera, but I think I'll try. So, like, sour, yes, typically if you're puckering your face and it's truly unpleasant, that what we call sour, and we would put sour in the category of unfavorable or a defect in any kind of tasting situation, almost, right? Acidity is, I would say, yes, you're still going through a physical reaction, which is you're feeling the tingly thingies on the side of your mouth, but it's not unpleasant. I think, like, that's just the biggest tell, I think. But what's hard is, like, being able to taste the difference if you haven't tasted it yet. So I think it would really help you and everyone to go somehow get a shot pulled of properly pulled espresso. And sometimes we don't know what's quote unquote good or highbrow or this is acidic, this is sour, if we're not exposed to it, you know? So we only know what we're kind of exposed to in terms of tasting. So when I was finally able to taste what does it mean to be sweet, properly sweet and properly acidic for espresso in particular, I was like kind of blown away, because I didn't understand that how coffee classifies sweet in a good way is that, you know, for example, the bottom of a shot of espresso, they'll call that the very, very bottom, the very concentrated bit. And if it's pulled correctly, meaning it's brewed correctly, like you say, what'd you say here? Let me use your words. Grind temp technique, right? So if it was pulled correctly with grind temp and technique in check, that last bit of the espresso of the shot is supposed to be super duper sweet. And the only words that I can think of in terms of how to make others understand is that toothache sweet. the toothache that you get from, say, biting into a really, really, really sweet, I don't know, bar of chocolate or something like that, or even caramel or something like that. Think of how when your tooth would hurt biting into something that sweet. So that's how it was explained to me, and that's how I finally could understand what they meant. And the acidity meant that I could taste things like berries and citrus and lemon and raspberry and strawberry and pineapple in an espresso shot. Okay, and that meant it was brewed properly, and all of the and the coffee that was for that espresso, like it was a blend and everything, was all up to par, or outstanding. Okay, so I think it really helps, point being, to standardize your palate or get your palate acclimated, maybe. Because I was just totally off. So I don't know. You sound like an espresso drinker, and maybe you just need recalibrate your espresso taste buds so that you can tell the difference between sour and acidity. Sour, when we say sour, that's an unfavorable thing in any situation, but acidity is typically, in any tasting situation, a good thing. Typically, okay? You can be overly acidic, yes, and you can be overly sweet, to where it's not balanced, like we talked about balance, right? So there's that. Okay, so the next part of your question. Are you saying that sourness and acidity can just be traits of certain roast profiles? And if it's too acidic compared to similarly processed coffees? Okay. So the way that I'm interpreting this question is, now that we've sort of clarified what sourness and acidity, because how I'm interpreting this question is that you are assuming that that's true, that sourness and acidity are the same thing, which they're not. So now that we know that they're not, if you're trying to get a less sour cup, I think that's, the next step in this equation now, or this problem, is to figure out what's the problem. Is it a sourness problem, or is it a really, if it's an acidic problem, and we're talking about pulling shots from espresso is a concentrated, very high pressure environment where brewing itself is like, it's under a lot of pressure, right? I don't know what kind of machine you use, whatever, but you're putting a lot of pressure, things, whatever is in the cup that you would maybe taste in a pour over, they're going to be magnified. In espresso, flavors are magnified. So with that being said, like whenever I was making an espresso blend, or even if it was a single origin, I would always tend to roast it into the medium territory. And I would be kind of like maybe City Plus at the lightest, medium, a true, like maybe a light medium, maybe a true medium. But for me, never a dark medium and never a dark. And that's because I kind of understood after my little class and the tiny bit of window that I got into espresso world, which I don't have a lot of expertise there. I'm not a big espresso drinker, but from what I understood and what I'm trying to like help you out with and understand in terms of flavors is that espresso magnifies those flavors. So if we have a coffee like this, 1,000 hands, generally I'm roasting this very light because I have these little delicate flavors here that I want to retain. I can roast this at a medium level. I'll kind of lose this blueberry. It'll maybe turn into like a blueberry jam or like a blueberry caramel sort of mix. I'll probably lose this tea-like and floral qualities or lemony qualities that it had, and we'll just go right into the caramelly chocolate realm. And to me, that's like kind of boring, and so I want to keep it at what it's what I feel like it shines as is a really light roast. Now, if we put this into an espresso machine, right, and we brew it and we try to pull a shot from it, it's going to magnify all of these things. So if it's a light roast, it's going to magnify perhaps this lemon flavor, this maybe the blueberry. I don't know. I kind of already knew that I didn't want to go that way, because I didn't want to magnify the acidity of this cup. It would be far too acidic in terms of flavor profile. Not necessarily sour, but just like too much of this going on with nothing to balance it, because it's a light roast. So because I knew that once I move it through and I brew it as an espresso, all of these flavors are going to get magnified. So if I was trying to highlight these flavors, these very delicate flavors, and then I try to brew it as an espresso, these just will be the main things that I'm tasting. And because it's, such an intense brewing process, it will probably feel a little unbalanced to me, too acidic, but not necessarily sour. Sour does mean typically in a espresso world under extracted, right? Either you brewed under 25 seconds or whatever it is, right? Maybe you brewed it too quickly, right? Or the grounds are too fine, something like that, a little too tight. That's typically an under extraction. So yeah, it I think you just got to backpedal a little bit. We took a couple steps forward too far in assuming that sourness and acidity were the same thing. Okay, so I hope that's clear in that. So definitely, if you want something more balanced as an espresso, you could probably try a blend. That's why there's so many espresso blends, because it's such a magnifying brewing method. So people know that once we throw it through the espresso thing, this is gonna be maybe overpowering, in acidity. Where I lost all my chocolate. I need my chocolate to make this a balanced cup so that people can throw their milk in it or whatever it may be, but they still want balance at the cup at the end of the day. They still want something tasty, right? Okay, let's try for, I don't know, dragon fruit in here or something else crazy, right? So, but at the end of the day, they're always going to want balance. Typically, right? Typically. Okay. So I hope that's clear. And this is just in the context of cupping where grinded. Okay. So I was talking about espresso, because espresso seems to me as where you're, that's your end product for you, Justin. So at the end product for you, you probably, you would want to, it would probably help you out to figure out what's the best sort of product for you, right? I don't typically drink a lot of espresso, so I don't tailor my goals or my methods of cupping and stuff like that to that. But if I'm going to make an espresso blend or an espresso coffee, I would tailor my goals to that for sure, and I would adjust what I was doing. And if I'm gonna cup or taste espresso, I'm brewing espressos. I'll still cup to get my gears going as a place to start, but in the end, I've got to be at the end product, which is espresso, where I can see where this machine in particular, and all machines are a little different, even the water that you use, right, in your machine. Are you using SCA water, using tap water, using osmosis water, using tap water? What, that could really affect how your coffee tastes as well. And so espresso is this whole other beast. But it's fun. Okay, so there's that. All right, let's not get into the weeds. All right, by the way, my middle phase definitely needs work. Okay, yeah. That middle phase, I had some trouble there too when I didn't know how to control the heat of my machine yet. So if you're getting to third phase too quickly, that just means you got to slow down heat somewhere. Okay? That's your starting point. I got to slow down my heat somewhere so that I could stretch out my middle phase and get to my 3 minutes 30, 4 minutes if I need to, right? And that's all about, do you have control of your machine? Okay. So right now you don't. If you know you can't do it, you need to be able to finally to say with your machine, I can do what I needed to do. I don't say that yet. I don't say that confidently yet either, but that's the journey of being a roaster. It's like, oh, I need to be able to stretch out my middle phase if I need to, or if I feel like I need to, right? For whatever particular coffee that you're roasting. And therein lies the challenge for you as a roaster. The challenge and the fun, of course. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Thanks for asking really great questions. They really get my gears turning. And then if I could articulate it back on camera for you, I'm teaching myself, reteaching myself, and hopefully teaching others and inspiring others. Just like all you guys are inspiring me. Okay, good things, and we'll see you next time. By the way, before I go, I'm now going to post all of the like the roast walkthroughs. I found this so helpful when I was learning on the hot top. One person put like all their steps like this, like I'm going to do for you here. Not so many pictures and nice pictures and videos and stuff like that, but they just put steps for me that I could follow and check back with it all the time. And I thought that was so dang helpful. So I'm going to do that for you guys too, because I don't know that we'll renew with 1,000 Hands, or even if it's going to be available for me, but I'll probably move on from this coffee. I'll probably going to focus on coffees from Latin America from now on, and really just like, I don't know, lean into the experimental stuff. I don't know. Let's see. But it'll live here on the site forever. Just go to blog. It has YouTube there, but that's like a drop down. But if you just click blog, it'll bring you to the blog. So, I'm really slow to these things on the Shopify. It's like too advanced or something. I'm like a WordPress gal. But you just click blog, or you go to search. You could search it there, I think. So if you search 1,000 Hands, let's just see. Oh, okay. So, here, articles. So there you go. So for those of you who are asking for, the updated version of the RoastPath or the roast curve, all that stuff, I said here since March 2022, that's like so recent that I finally figured out how to roast this coffee. It takes time. It's all right here. Okay. So this is my light roast, how I roast it now, retaining all of these really delicate, flavors and stuff. Yeah. So I'll try to, keep filling this out, keep blogging, put all these out. And then if you guys find a coffee that you need a little bit more information on, or you want to play with, search the site, and hopefully it'll all be there. Okay. All right. Good things. See you next one. Bye.